Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you this evening or this afternoon or this morning, whenever you watch this video, with a frank admission. And that is that I've got a pinball addiction. I've got it pretty bad. In fact, my pinball addiction is far worse than I ever thought it was. And it's been driven home to me, the stark reality of the situation has been driven home to me this evening for two reasons. Number one, it was the spooky pinball release double announcement. The double whammy of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Looney Tunes. I was not so concerned about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Looney Tunes had me concerned. Let me tell you why I was concerned. I've had it in my mind for some time now that I have a perfect 7 pinball machines. It's been in my mind. And at the end of the time that I've finished my top 50 list of pinball machines, the ideal will be that I own the top 7. That's the dream. Over recent months, the top 7 has become a top 8 must-have pinball machines. You know where this is going. It's then a top 9 pinball machines, and it's sort of become very recently a top 10 pinball machines. And then Spooky announce that they've got this Looney Tunes, and for some reason I'm thinking I must have a Looney Tunes pinball machine, but I don't need one. It's not part of my desired top 10. It certainly wasn't part of the desired top 7. If you remember, perhaps a month or two ago, I produced a video talking about dream themes. I told you what my favourite dream themes would be, didn't I? I told you, I said, I'd love to see the Boys. I'd love to see the Lost Boys. Lost Boys would be a great one. The Who, a Quadrophenia pinball machine would be great. I'd love to see, something, I don't know what I'd think, Flash Gordon remade. There were a number of pinball machines which I would really like to have seen done, but I didn't mention Looney Tunes to you, not at any point. Yet for some reason now I have to have it. I was on the phone to my friend Steve earlier. That's Steve New on the Facebook group, London based on the forum. And Steve was saying to me that how one of his dream themes is the Evil Dead. And he was hopeful that at some point next year, Spooky Pinball would announce the release of the Evil Dead. But Steve was explaining to me that this would be a problem for him. Because as much as Steve really wanted the Evil Dead, he was hopeful that Dutch Pinball would bring out Back to the Future. And if that happens, he would have to buy a Back to the Future, which would mean he couldn't get Evil Dead. And he was troubled by this news. And I said to him, hey, Steve, you're worrying about something you don't need to worry about. See, the thing in life is we're good at giving advice and we're not so good at receiving it. So I gave him advice, which really I should be giving myself. Now, Steve has got 5 pinball machines. One of which is Big Lebowski, which is about as good as any pinball machine ever made. He's got a Scared Stiff. He's got some great games. So I said, Steve, it doesn't matter if you don't get the Evil Dead. You've still got some great pinball machines to play. And he said, you're right. He said, you are right, mate. He said, thank you very much. He said, what am I thinking? I need a reality check. Truth of the matter is, it's not just Steve that needs a reality check. I need the reality check as well. Because actually we don't need any of these things. If I go back in time to my first ever pinball machine. Now I spent years playing pinball with Spencer, who you see on this channel frequently. We spent years and years playing pinball. When I was a boy, my father used to take me into the arcade. So we used to go down to the seafront and there'd be an arcade on the pier. And he would never give me any money for arcade games. He'd never give him any money for slot machines or anything like that. He would say, a waste of money. The only thing he would ever do is he'd give me a couple of coins and he'd say, you can only play pinball. That's where my love of pinball came from. So I have him to thank for that. And then Spencer, probably 20, 30 years ago, Spencer bought a pinball machine. He bought a Theatre Magic and he had a Black Rose. The Black Rose didn't last too long. He had a Theatre Magic. We played that for years. Many a beer and a pizza evening was spent playing Theatre Magic, which is one of the reasons it's nostalgic for me now. However, my first pinball machine that I purchased was in 2018. It was Popeye. Bottom of that list, you won't be able to see it at the moment because the camera's out of focus. If you'd have said to me in 2018 that I would get a pinball machine, I couldn't believe it. I had to save up every penny for that pinball machine. And even then, I couldn't really afford it. I did it anyway. This is the thing. Pinball makes us do crazy things with money. And if you'd have asked me at the point I got that pinball machine, are you happy? I was so happy. That was it. My dream had been achieved. I owned a pinball machine. That was enough That was enough for me. In fact, I'll go further than that. I now own. It's got so bad I don't know how many I own. Not because I own 30. I think I own 5 pinball machines. I own. Let's get this absolutely right. A Theatre of Magic. I own a Batman 66, a Deadpool, a Big Lebowski, and an 8-ball deluxe. Now I also own a Godzilla, which is I've sold it basically. I've sold the Godzilla, but I know what I want to replace that with. One of my dream machines. So I have 5 pinball machines. Forget 5. If you would have told me almost at any point that I would own a Batman 66 and a Deadpool, I would have just said that's like a dream. That would be a dream come true. I would have told you, and I don't want anything else in life. Strange. Oh, I love my children dearly. We're not talking about children and holidays and family. We're talking about inanimate objects here. I would have told you I'd be happy. My pinballing life would be complete to own a Batman 66 and a Deadpool. However, you get it, and it's not enough. I was watching a Golden Globes ceremony on playback. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Recently, I was watching a Golden Globes ceremony on playback. And Jim Carrey, who I love Jim Carrey. And he was introduced as 2-time Golden Globe Award winner Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey came out and he said, yes, it is I, 2-time Golden Globe Award winner Jim Carrey. He said, and I like to think if I could just win one more Golden Globe and be introduced as 3-time Golden Globe Award winner Jim Carrey, it would be enough. And it was a joke. He was joking. It was a good joke. But I sort of know what he meant, because actually it turned out that combination of Deadpool and Batman 66, which are 2 amazing pinball machines, they weren't enough. I needed something else. Somebody asked me on the comments on this channel over the last few days, why? He said, why did you ever sell Lord of the Rings? Well, I sold Lord of the Rings because at the time I was running a business and I had an accident. I had a car accident. Well, I had an accident in my van and I really hurt myself. I hurt myself very, very badly and ended up in hospital. So I couldn't work and I was self-employed. So I had to sell Lord of the Rings, and my friend John really kindly helped me out in that situation massively. But I was forced to sell Lord of the Rings. I was so lucky that my friend John looked after me financially, and even though I lost Lord of the Rings, he tried to make me keep Lord of the Rings for such a long time, and then he said, I'll make sure you're not without a pinball machine, and still to this day he continues to look after me and then lend me pinball machines. So many of the pinball machines you've seen on this channel have been my friend John's, but I had to sell it. I needed the money. But I never intended on selling Lord of the Rings. So Lord of the Rings, as I'm sure you've already gathered, is one of the dream 7, 8, 9, 10. But that's not enough. Lord of the Rings, that's not enough. So even Lord of the Rings, which I don't have now, Batman and Deadpool's not enough. No. Because my friend Keith lent me Dolly Parton, I suddenly got into discovered that actually I quite liked some of the old Bally classic games. So I thought, you know what I'd like? I'd like one of those games. So I got an 8-ball deluxe. That wasn't enough either. And on it goes and on it goes. And we find ourselves in this addictive habit where I don't have space. I'm not a rich man. I live in a 3-bedroom house. I'm a single parent. I live in a 3-bedroom house. And I keep on extending this dwelling in my garden to accommodate more and more pinball machines. Because I've got this addiction, I've got it bad. The other day on the forum, somebody was discussing the new toilet mod for the Big Lebowski. And it's a toilet that sits inside the Big Lebowski. And the Big Lebowski is a packed, populated game. If any pinball machine doesn't need modding, it's probably the Big Lebowski. However, a mod has been produced. And if you know the film, it's a toilet. It's the dude's toilet. It's not just any toilet. It's the dude's toilet, man. And there's a bowling ball which has been dropped in front of the toilet and smashed on the tiles. You'll be aware of the scene from the film. And somebody said, you know, basically, who needs a toilet for a pinball machine? This is unnecessary. It will add nothing to the pinball machine. And I logically, I understood everything they said. And I said, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I've got to have one. I've got it so bad that I have purchased mods for pinball machines I don't own. I've got some art blades down there. I've got some art blades down there for a Lord of the Rings, even though I don't own a Lord of the Rings. I bought the art blades in case one day I get a Lord of the Rings again. When I recently purchased Theatre of Magic, I already had a spare set of slingshot plastics because I bought them from someone 2 years ago. I didn't even own a Theatre of Magic. I thought I'll buy those just in case one day I get a Theatre of Magic. Okay, it looks wise now. Well, it will do if the plastics break. Otherwise, it's just wasted money. So I keep buying these things. I keep wanting to buy more pinball machines. And often I can't afford them. So I've got a lot of cameras. I do a lot for my job now. I do a lot of filming. I got a lot of cameras. Okay, probably too many cameras, really. Well, I did have too many cameras. I had a camera purge. I sold a lot of my cameras to fund some pinball machines. Don't get me wrong. My children aren't starving. I'm fine. But this hobby is bad, and I can't think of anything more addictive. I have friends who play golf. They don't seem to constantly buy new golf clubs. They don't have it as bad. I have friends who enjoy fishing. They're not constantly buying new fishing rods. Some new lure or float or hook comes out. No, not at all. And I can think of very, very few hobbies, if any, that are like this. Maybe you will know of some other hobbies. I was heavily into the camera hobby, and yes, there is an element of that where you must have the next lens or the next camera. Funnily enough, I've got one right here. This lens, this is not a cheap lens. I had to have this lens, so I do have it. But this is useful. I use these cameras and these lenses for my job, and I also use them to film the pinball machines. I think my point is this is an incredibly addictive hobby. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And you just find yourself in a position where you think, I must have it. Because then you get the FOMO, don't you? Which is the fear of missing out. I don't think I ever had the fear of missing out. I think I just really, really wanted to have something. And there are some people in this hobby that are really cool. I think they're just as addicted as the rest of us. But I'll say, that's all right. If I don't get it now, new in box, I'll buy it in 2 years' time. And I think, wow, I admire that. I admire that patience to be able to be able to wait. So let me tell you where I am with my. I only do this video now to be a little bit cathartic, to cleanse, almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. Good evening, everybody. You know, my name's Gonzo and I'm an alcoholic. It's basically like that. Let me tell you where I am with it. You may remember a little while back I said, if only I could have next to each other The Big Lebowski and Pulp Fiction next to one another, I'd be happy. It's nonsense. You can't believe anything I say. It changes constantly. It's not my fault. It's this damn hobby. I'm really looking forward to Pulp Fiction coming out. I haven't got it yet. I'm not even sure they've made a production one. I think they might have all been test models. But I'm still looking to the next thing. This is the problem with it taking a long time to produce machines. Because you may well end up buying something else and spending your money on something else. So I've got a problem. It's not even a problem. You know, they say that thing, first world problems. This is a real first world problem I'm going to give you here. I expect nobody to have any sympathy for me whatsoever. I want a Pulp Fiction. I want a Back to the Future. I've not seen either. Somebody criticised me on one of the videos. It was on the Elton John. And he said, how can you... I said, oh, I like that. I'd like to look at that. They said, how can you refer to something as tremendous when you haven't even seen it yet? I do it with everything. I just see things. I'm the guy I'm that guy they make the teaser trailer for. It's me. It may well be you as well, but it wasn't this person that had left a comment on the video. And he accused me of shilling. He said, "I think you're trying to shill." I really wasn't. If you've seen my Venom video, if you've seen my Queen video, if you've seen a lot of my videos when I don't like a game, I let you know when I don't like a game. I really do. I wasn't. I just it got me. The Elton John. I quite like the music, the lights, the glitter, the sparkle. You've got to remember, I am the man that airbrushed his Batman '66 pink and purple. I was always going to like Elton John. Okay, you've only got, hey, look around you, and it's another thing, and you sort of got to have it. And then when I heard about Jaws, that Jaws was going to have the shark coming up from the playfield, it's going to have the yellow barrels on it, the orca, the boat was going to be like a separate playfield. I thought, I've got to have one of those. So I find myself in this situation now of wanting all these new games that haven't even been made yet. Okay, in the case of Pulp Fiction, at least we know what it's going to look like. And some of you lucky folk who are over in the States have played it, and I'm jealous. I'm really, really jealous of you. You've played it. I'd love to. I'm desperate to play it. I'm desperate to make videos on a Pulp Fiction, which of course I'd share with everybody. And as soon as I get my hands on one, you'll be seeing lots and lots of videos. I don't know how many Big Lebowski videos I've done already, maybe 5 or 6, and I've still got more in reserve. But I have this situation now where I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'd like to. I can't afford all these games. I'd like to get Jaws, and I'd like to get Back to the Future. And I'd definitely like to get Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is on order. Pulp Fiction's coming anyway. But then people bring out these other games, like these Looney Tunes. And look, does the theme of Looney Tunes, it's nostalgic, does it appeal to me as much as Back to the Future? No, it doesn't. However, you start to see the shots and see the loops, 4 flippers, all the loops on it, the flow on the game. Looks amazing. So anyway, there you go. A bit of a jumbled video, really. As I say, more of a, I think more of a frank admission of my addiction than anything else. But they are addictive, and they're meant to be addictive. Don't forget that. Pinball machines were initially made to attract you when you walked past them. It's like I said to Enzo when we did our podcast. They're flashing lights. Even the sound is called an attract sound. It's not just a sound, it's an attract sound. It's there to attract you. So the sound attracts you, it catches your attention, you look at it, the lights flash at you in a manner that's attractive. It lures you in. It's like the sirens calling the ships onto the rocks. It's luring you in. It's like the snake in the Jungle Book. Trust in me. It's hypnotized. So the game's hypnotised you. And you walk up to that game, and the lights and the playfield, and there's toys on it. Hopefully, there's toys on it. And you take the coin out. I think I've got a coin. I went to the hairdresser's earlier, and I had to pay. I had to pay, and the machine rejected my coin. You take your coin, and you put the coin in the slot, and you play the game. And the game is so addictive that it makes you want to get another coin out your pocket. And that's the point. All these pinball machines were made to be addictive, but they were supposed to take the coin out of your pocket. They were never designed to empty your bank account. But an addictive game is an addictive game, right? So there's all these games, there's these new games, but then I've got to have an Attack from Mars. I've got to have a Monster Bash. I've got to have a Tales of the Arabian Nights. I've got to get the Lord of the Rings back. And, this is without Blade. But Blade, if someone produces Blade, I'm in massive trouble. It's got to have the music. We said that. The music, the bloodbath, all the stuff. I don't want a cartoon. I don't want a comic of Blade. I want the movie. I want the Wesley Snipes movie. Otherwise, forget it. Forget it. Maybe one day I win the lottery and I'll have a custom one made. That'd be good. But there you go. There endeth. It's like my confession, isn't it? There you go. This is the confession box. I'm the confession-y, whatever. I'm the guilt. I'm the sinner. That's it. I'm the sinner. You're the priest. So thank you very much for hearing my confession. And that's it. But I pledge now. It will stop at 10. I don't know where I'm going to get the money from, but it has to stop at 10. No more. No more.